So for ours, you want to start out with about 2 3/4 cups of unbleached flour. And then with that, you want to have some sugar. So about 1/4 cup of sugar. And you see, this is the interesting thing about this pasticcio. We're having a pasta encased in a sweet pastry. Very unusual. A stick of butter goes in, and a pinch of salt, and you want the zest of 1 lemon. So that goes in. So now what you want to do, if you're doing this in a blender, you want to get this until it's kind of coarse or mealy. Get this into a mealy state or a coarse state, something that looks like oatmeal. And then you want to add eggs to this. And we want 3 egg yolks. So you want to add those a little at a time so that the flour really absorbs the yolks. So get it all in. And then the last thing we have to add to this is a little bit of water. I want to get the rest of those yolks because in the Renaissance, you know, egg yolks were used to give coloring, a nice color to different dishes. Saffron was used. Those were very expensive things. And now a little water. About 1/2 cup, I would say, but it's all going to depend on the flour you used, the humidity in the air, how you're feeling, whether you have a Renaissance pedigree. All these things are going to be taken into account. And I know that that needs a little bit more. So let me stop it now and feel it, because you know everything is in the hands. I think it needs just a little bit more, just a dribble. You don't want to over-process it either, otherwise you're going to have a very tough dough. So that looks about right. Now we can take that out. Now we have to wrap that. I'd like to know where they chilled these in the Renaissance. They certainly didn't have refrigerators, I'll tell you that. So you wrap this up and let this get cold because it's going to be a little easier for you to roll. So I would say you want to let this chill for about an hour and a half. Now we have a chilled one. Isn't it wonderful to live in the modern era? So there's my chilled dough. Now we have to roll this out. So first of all, let me clean up the decks here and show you how I would do that. You would get out some wax paper. And here I've put 2 pieces of wax paper together. I'm the secret cook to myself, so this is how I do things. Do you remember Scapi being the secret cook, or il cuoco segreto to Pope Pius V? Can you imagine the dishes that the Pope was eating? And then you want to put your dough down on the paper, just like that, see? Well, this is looking very nice, and I think I'm almost ready now. I can take this out and put it into my pan. Let's see. I get my pan out. Here it is. I'm using a spring-form pan, you see, that I have lightly greased with a little bit of butter. And all you have to do is say a prayer. Of course, if you were the secret cook to the Pope, or the private cook to the Pope, nothing would ever go wrong in your cucina, would it? So, you see how easy that comes off? And then what you have to do is you have to play with this dough. You have to get it all the way around, giving it some slack, bringing it up. There. I think you get the idea. Then the filling goes in there. And here's our filling. We have about 1 1/4 pounds of chicken. We've got our penne, which are a slant type of pasta. And now I've cooked this to the al dente stage, and we're going to add a little bit of butter to this. Oh, about 5 tablespoons. Some cheese. Mix this up. Mix the cheese and the butter with the pasta and get it all well incorporated, just like that. Then you start filling the mold. So here's my mold. And do this in thirds. So make a layer of pasta and peas and cheese and butter, and I wish you could smell this. And remember, This is kind of in the northern Italian style of cooking because we're using butter. And here is our chicken, and we're putting a little bit of chicken broth in with that. That's about, oh, I would say a cup of chicken broth. And then another layer of pasta goes in. You can see why this is a very hearty pasticcio. And then the rest of that chicken, and instead of using a bechamel, you see, a bechamel which is a cream sauce, I'm using the broth, and that's making a very light tasting pasticcio. And then neatly get all the rest of this into the pan, just like that. And then you have to really push on this, get that in there. You don't want any gaps anywhere. Now this is really going to serve a crowd. So once you have it like that, well, then you have to put the top crust on. And that's in the fridge. And here is mine, all rolled out. I get up early, and it's all ready to go over the top. So you remember how I rolled that out before. You take the top, you put it over, you take off the paper. Oh boy, I wish Bartolomeo was here to see mine. And then you kind of just pinch down those edges, you see, just like that. So you roll up the dough into these little balls, and you make a bunch of grapes. A brushing of egg, because we want this to come out looking absolutely gorgeous. Now that we have that all gussied up, this is going to go into a 375-degree oven. You want this to cook, oh, for about, I would say an hour and a half, depending on the type of oven that you have. Okay, and I'm telling you, that's a heavy one. So, here it goes.